Welcome, everyone, to Spillin the Oats, episode 1, the introduction. My name is Ote, or Oats, as some of you may know me, and I'm kicking it off with my first podcast. So the premise for this podcast, honestly, is going to be a little different than the main theme of this podcast moving forward. The theme of this podcast will definitely be aimed around league-related media, content, standings, fantasy, player stats, awards predictions, seasons predictions, and that sort of thing going forward. And then obviously some questions mixed in there. But for episode 1, you guys were all great. Send me a ton of questions. So episode 1 is going to be focused around kind of just explaining a little bit about who I am, my history with the site, answering some questions, and that'll really be the episode 1, the introduction, as I'm going to call it here. So let's waste no time and get into it. I really want these episodes to be around 30 minutes so they're an easy listen and they really focus on core information moving forward. So that's going to be no different. For this one, I'm going to try to answer all the questions that I got within 30 minutes. Some questions I may answer more briefly than I would normally just because of the amount of questions, or maybe I'll come back to that question at another time or date. So a little bit about me. Let's flip over here to the wonderful portal that we have and able to look back at some of my past players. So I first joined the league in season 22 with Alish Smirnov, and now that's all down here. So that was my first player. That was me coming into the league as a first gen. I was a free agent to Kelowna, drafted by West Kendall. Spent most of my career in West Kendall, which is now Baltimore. Hopped around a little bit, went to New England, went to LA, and then went back to West Kendall. For first player in the league, definitely pretty lucky. Had some junior success, had some individual success at the SHL level, getting the Ron Mexico, which was huge. After that, I would create a defenseman, Ostap Maximov, which would be drafted to Calgary. I'd be very fortunate there, playing under Essa, one of the greatest GMs of all time, winning 3 cups. From there, retirement with Maximov, I would go into Theo Kondos, who is essentially my most recent player that I just retired a couple seasons ago. Once again, super lucky with some team success. And then my current player, who is Stavros Kondos, is just in junior right now in my final season of junior before I age out and I move up to Seattle. I am Seattle's co-GM with Eddie there as the GM. Just recently took on that position 2 or 3 seasons ago after I was drafted there. And I know I kind of have some questions around that, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But honestly, that is my quick background on the league, the site. I've been here for almost 10 years now. November will be 10 years, so it's been a pretty crazy run. So without wasting any further time, let's get into some of the questions here. First question coming from Luke. Love the name. Appreciate that, my friend. What are you most excited to talk about? So as mentioned, I really want to make this league-related content. I think Seven and Luke kind of came out saying they're going to bring back some of that league-related information and league-related media. Obviously, Luke's had a ton of great league-related content and media in the past. The top 100, obviously being a big one, or the top 75. It's escaping me if it was 75 or 100. But we've went through stages in the league where there's been a lot of great content and site media, but it is definitely a balance. It takes so much work, right? And then at the same time, the people that are often putting in this work don't need the money for it. So it kind of teeters and goes in waves. So my goal is to kind of bring a shorter podcast that can hopefully fill in some of that information. Next question from Jove. Pod name is awesome. Once again, appreciate that. If you're looking for a special guest, I know Troy is always looking for a podcast spot, so we might have to make that happen. I'm totally open to having guests on the show. I actually think it would add a lot of valuable conversation to have another 1 or 2 people to bounce conversation off of, bounce ideas, bounce predictions, etc. off of. So definitely something I'll be looking at doing in the future. Johnny says, J and SHL predictions are always interesting. Yes, they are. I put up this question thread before the season started, and obviously we're at the end of week 1. So can't make too many predictions. I'll just look through the SHL, honestly. Let's take a quick look here. So I'm not going to go too in depth. I think everybody kind of expects the big dogs to be at the top, so they're doing their thing there. They're all kind of expected to be up there. I think Buffalo being at 4 is definitely very good for them, and same with Manhattan at 5. Manhattan's a big one. They've obviously struggled a little bit the past couple of seasons, so it is great to see them on the way up. I'm sure Texas probably wants to be a little higher than 6, probably within the top 5, and I'm sure they'll get there by the end of the season. I mean, very strong goal differential. Manhattan is just squeaking in there with the +4, so mean to the regression will probably drop them down a little bit. Tampa Bay has come flying out of with the start of the season here, obviously with JWS and Carnage leading the way in fantasy. So don't hold me to this, but I think last season they came out pretty strong as well and kind of faded. So hopefully they'll be able to keep it up. Obviously with 5 OTLs, their record could be completely different, right? If a couple of those 1 goals go the other way. So they'll be a fun watch the rest of the way. Toronto's probably kind of where you expect them at 8. Same with Atlanta at 9. In that range, I think they're both pretty range-bound, middle of the pack. New England coming off the win. I'm sure they want to be a little higher. Could be wrong here, but I think they're facing a little bit of regression. Let's take a quick look. So yeah, they definitely still have the top end talent. And I mean, just a little bit of regression. So I'm sure they want to be a little higher, but not bad for the start of the season by any means. I know for my fantasy team, I'd love for them to score a little bit more. Same with Baltimore. That's a team that's probably hoping to finish the season top 3. So I think they'll get up there as the season goes along. They've had a rough go on the road, 3-6. New Orleans, another team that probably hopes they'll be top 10 by the time the season comes to an end. So another one that'll be fun to watch. And then the rest of the way, I think for the most part, kind of expected with the bottom chunk of teams here. I hope Calgary starts losing selfishly just because being on Seattle, the team we're chasing. But that being said, it's always good to see rebuilding teams start to slowly come out of that rebuild and, ice a competitive team. Montreal, what are you doing? You cannot finish last. Camp and Killer there has to get rolling there. But I'm gonna move on. J predictions, honestly, being in the J, I should follow it a little closer. I do follow it, but I just don't follow the team composition as much as I do to really make any insightful comments. So I'm just gonna skip the J for now. What do you think is appealing in the league for new creates? What should be changed in order to maximize retention/enjoyment? Yeah, I think, especially for people coming from the other league, everyone's going to say the portal, just a huge quality of life. And I'm sure there's some other questions that I'll probably talk to that about on. But what should be changed in order to maximize retention/enjoyment? It really comes down to the J. It's so hard because being a GM is no easy task. Everyone's busy. FHM obviously takes some experience, but it's so important for the JGMs to really foster a strong locker room environment. Because if you have a weak locker room and your team is rebuilding, it just makes it hard for players to stay active. So you really need to foster a strong locker room. Whether your team is competitive or not, but just to ensure that the user stays active, you have the right people on the team to follow up, answer questions, because it is a lot of information to take on. So honestly, the J is one of the most important things of the league. With the first gens, you got to make sure they're happy and active. I think the league has come a long way with making it easier to get money, so people aren't stressing as much about money and extending their careers and training. So yeah, I think that's the one thing. It's just focus on J involvement and JGM's involvement to ensure first gens are just having a great go. And I think there are a lot of great GMs doing a great job out there, and obviously by the growth of the league, I think it shows that. Slice says, how has it been coming in to be a GM with Seattle? Any thoughts to share with anyone who might be interested in such a role? Yeah, that's an interesting question for sure. As I kind of mentioned, FHM takes a little more time and knowledge than Simon T did to be a GM. Simon T really, you could just be a good locker room guy and kind of piece together some stuff, and Simon T and your team would have a good chance, just as there was more RNG. So FHM, obviously there's a little bit of a learning curve there. It's not as easy to be good at if you don't actually have the sim. So I think that's one thing. You have to have time to kind of learn the sim, and or at least have a war room or other people in management on your team that know the sim. I know for us in Seattle, we have Kez as well, who's honestly been doing a lot of the sim work for us, so we appreciate Kez a lot. So I think that's the big thing. Is I think a great spot to start, and I think I have one other question from this, but is in World Juniors. You get a little bit of knowledge with the sim, you get a little bit of knowledge of interacting with people through like your own small little mini locker room for a short period of time. So I think anyone that would be interested in GMing, World Juniors would be a great place to start. Drum says, love the branding. Thank you. Do you watch any podcasts yourself, SHL or not? Yeah, I occasionally listen to a couple of different SHL podcasts depending if I have time. Obviously, I usually listen to the Rich and Luke one. I usually listen to Slappy's, and then as new ones come out, I'll kind of listen to if I have time. And then outside of the SHL, I listen to random true crime ones. My most frequent listen is probably Bad Friends. It's just an easy listen when I'm in the car driving for work. So I think Bad Friends is a good one if you're looking for a little bit of comedy. And they usually have some pretty good guests in there and skits that they do. So Bad Friends is probably my most listened right now. Thanks for the question. Mike says, hey, good luck with the project. I love it. Thank you. You have been here for a long time. What changed for better or for worse? Easy answer is the portal. Just once again, just a huge quality of life improvement. And then I think everything that comes with the portal, from the banking system to applying TP to updating your player to seeing free agents, everything like that has been great. I think the community has also evolved a lot, and so it's just a better community to be a part of now. And it's not just related on hockey, obviously. So community is great. The portal is great. I don't think anything's really changed for the worse. I'm trying to think. I don't think anything's changed for the worse that's coming off to the top of my head. So yeah, on to the next. Is this your first time as a GM? If yes, why did you decide to take on the role now? If not, which team did you manage previously? So yeah, this is my second go. Way back with my first player, I did hold a co-GM spot with Bojo in West Kendall. You guys don't know who Bojo is. He used to have the Bojo box before we had the portal and everything, which was essentially the early version of the portal. Updating and everything was still on the site. It was more for stats and everything. So Bojo was a great user. He's still around, but I think close to inactivity. But me and Bojo had a very strong team in West Kendall, once again, which is now Baltimore. We had 2 finals losses. We never won the big thing, unfortunately, but super great time there. Next question, Yosh, how do you get the big Yosh? That's a good question. I think only you know the answer to that one, Yosh. But yeah, we love having Yosh in Seattle, obviously on with his new player now, so we'll see how that goes. Troy says, hey, the courts have told me, he's replying to Joe, especially indecent exposure. My question is, when is Troy going to be on the next podcast? Good question. These are going to be weekly, so we can definitely figure out a time there moving forward. Leo, you've been around a minute. What's the highest point as a member slash player? Favorite moments? Any moment you would rather forget? Yeah, the highest point as a member slash player probably goes back to West Kendall. I think we just had a really, 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 really great locker room, great group of users. We never won it there, but I can say like Bojo was getting married. We came together and we're like, you know what, we're gonna get a custom West Kendall platoon jersey with Bojo on the back. We reached out to his wife separately to kind of surprise him as a wedding gift. So that was a great moment. As a member for sure. As the player, I think just winning with my first couple of cups in Calgary, I wasn't the most involved compared to my Texas ones. So I think my Texas ones rank a little higher than my Calgary ones. So those are probably my favorite moment as a player. Winning the Ron Mexico with my first player was great as well. And that was just weird. I was a max earner on that player. Didn't really have much success individually, and then I was deep in regression, and somehow Simon T popped me off, and I won the Ron Mexico as like a 1200 TP player. It was crazy. How do you feel about overnight oats? Well, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. I'm not sure where oats actually came from for my username. Someone abbreviated it at some point, and I've went by oats ever since. But I don't actually eat oats. I can't remember the last time I've had oats or oatmeal or anything like that. If anything, I've had like oat milk more recently. So I can't really answer that question. Like, to be honest, I don't know if I've ever had overnight oats. I have seen some interesting recipes that, like, when you're trying to get a health kick, they say, "Oh, overnight oats is great." So there's been some recipes that look good, but I've never actually made it for myself. Next question. And Theek, love the name. What's your best memory when Theo was playing for Texas? Had to be the Cups. I don't think any memory will beat the Cups, especially since in both Cups we were kind of the underdog team. But the first one, I think in season 59, would be the most, or my favorite memory for sure, would be that first Cup. How confident are you that your rebuild will end with a Cup? Very confident. If you're not confident, why are you doing it? We have a great group of, I'm going to bring it up. We have a great group of users in Seattle, a lot of top earners, and just a lot of players that either if they're first gens or recreates, they're just very active, very involved in the community. So we have first gen Rents, who got off to a slow start, but ever since he kind of figured out the site, he's been max earning. Super awesome. Obviously, we can go through some of our recreates like Roast, Dan, Rots, Finn, Gabby. And then we have some older users that we appreciate their grind through the rebuild, but we will have some younger prospects moving in. But yeah, we just have a great group of recreates there that have been around the site for a long time, know what they're doing. They hold roles on the site. They're well respected. Just great people. And then first gens, Squid, Phoenix, EC, Carson. And then yeah, that's everyone at the moment. Great, once again, just great people to have to start building and rebuilding the locker room. And prospects, as you can see, we still have a full list of prospects to be coming called up. So we're super excited. We're super confident. Obviously, going through a rebuild, you got to get you have to get your team up to that 14 to 1600 TP average range. I think right now we're only at 950, so we're still a couple seasons out. Next season we should jump up to about 1150 once we replace some of the regressing players with prospects that are being called up, and then just natural gain of max earning. How do you incorporate oats into your diet? Good question. Probably you just don't. Favorite, oh no, it's becoming a trend. Favorite topping for oatmeal. Thinking back, I feel like I would have the apple cinnamon oatmeal most often, or like a brown sugar oatmeal or something like that when I was younger. So probably one of those two. Tig says, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in GMing a franchise through a major transition out of a successful contention window that mortgage the future pretty heavily. Also, you're welcome for that last bit. Yeah. So we'll never blame the previous management group for the rebuild that we're going through in Seattle. They, as Tig said, they had a successful window. They gave up a lot to stay competitive in that window, but they got the cups out of it, and yeah, it did force the team into a very big rebuild with no picks, no active players, no prospects. Um, so yeah, the biggest challenge, honestly, I guess getting back to the question there is honestly, you got to rebuild the locker room, right? You're building in all new people that have to get to know each other, feel comfortable with each other, and it's always harder to build a locker room when you're not a competitive team. Winning makes everyone more active and more. They talk more and communicate more, and so coming as a rebuilding team, it's really, making that effort. So we've made some changes to the locker room, and I'm really happy with where it's at. Even just in the couple of seasons since I've made it to Seattle, we've made a lot of ground, and it's only going to get better once again as we continue to win, as more people get called up and more people get familiar with each other. So I'm excited, super excited. Angie, one of my favorite people on the site. Angie was with me back in West Kendall, so we go way back as well. Just one of the core members of that team, and ever since then, just a great person. So yeah, out of your Jesus Christ 5 cup wins, which one was the most satisfying? The first win in Texas, like I kind of previously said there, I think season 59. I was just more involved with the team. We were more underdogs. I got called up. It was early in my Texas career, so it was a great way to start a career with Texas. So easily season 59. Is there anything you haven't won that's on your radar with your newish player? I've been pretty fortunate with winning stuff. Luckily, but I have been on the site for 10 years, so I've had a long period of time to, I guess, accumulate trophies. So, like, I have a Raw in Mexico, super lucky for that. Like I said, that was a weird one, though. I have a couple 4-star cups. I have challenge cups. I was lucky enough to get the Jester. I was lucky enough to win the DAR. I think, honestly, my goal in Seattle, and it'll come if we win some more challenge cups, is to hopefully get the Lance Uppercut. That would be great. Maybe the coach one, it's slipping my mind. So yeah, I was nominated with Bojo back in season 28. We didn't win. It'd be great to win a Lance here in Seattle, hopefully on the back of a strong competitive window. Thank you for the questions. Hey Oats, miss you in Thunder Bay. Any thoughts on international hockey, specifically World Juniors? No, I think honestly I never really followed the international hockey too closely, but I am more motivated to follow it with this player. Honestly, my last 2 players both played for Austria, and then Austria became France. So just smaller nations that were never really competitive during those times I was there. I do want to hopefully have a better international career with Stavros. I haven't really won anything since Smirnov. I won 1 gold, I think, with Russia way back. So I will have more of an international focus. On the World Junior side, I think it's, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I think it's a great tournament for players looking to get some management experience. Being unassigned, I've been on Team World, so kind of people undeclared go to Team World, and then they eventually declare, and Team World loses their players and they go to another team. So Team World never has the best team, but we had a couple good shots last season. We got decimated, but yeah, I think World Juniors is very important. It goes into that question earlier from Shawnee there on keeping people active, since these rookies aren't going to be playing like in IIHF. It's really important to have the World Junior tournament. If you were given the choice to change one thing in the SHL, what would it be? Yeah, that's a good question. I think if I was to change anything, and I think don't quote me on this. I think it was Rich. He made, and I can't remember where it was, but he made a comment about contract money becoming more important or wishing it had more importance. And I agree with that. It would be awesome that if free agency was truly like a big event, but money is so easy to come by right now. Players stick to their teams because of their locker rooms. So there's not really much player movement. It makes sense. No one out here actually needs SHL money to live. But it would be a super interesting way to see if there was a way to make it more important or a way to recap the budget or rework the budget. I think would add another dynamic to managing teams if players truly needed the contract money. I don't think there's any easy way to do it that would be better for the league, though, unfortunately. So that's one that's probably will never get touched. But I think that would be something fun to change. Maybe we just need a wealthy investor to come in and actually pay people contract money, and then that way people will look for more money and the team hop. But yeah, I think the SHL is in a very good spot right now. Obviously, I wish I guess not change, but I just wish there was an easy solution to simming. Simming's very hard. Takes a lot of time. It's a big time commitment. That was the nice thing with Simon T. It was easy enough to load up the file, sim, save, and you're done in 20, 30 minutes, whatever it may be. Where now, we have some sims and they're going on for 45 minutes, an hour. It's a big request for the simmers, and like I said, nobody gets paid to do this, so they truly are the MVPs, and without simmers we wouldn't have a league, right? So I wish there was an easier way to do it, but that's another one that's hard to solve. It's hard to solve for sure. H2 Hoop. Oats, you're a beloved user not only in Texas but across the league. Thank you. Appreciate the kind words, Coop. You're truly the GOAT. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts about the league and your new podcast. Is there currently anything missing or something you may consider severely broken that needs the league's attention? Yeah, I think I just kind of answered that with my previous one. I don't think there's anything severely broken or anything that's, going to cause the league to collapse, but it would be nice to find a way to improve those two previous things, contract money and simming, just for the quality of life. Especially on the sim side, for the quality of life of the simmers, I think that's super important. But I think the league's in a good spot. Slappy says, was going to give you some questions and comments, but you seem already to be overloaded. I will be listening though. Appreciate you, Slappy. Another OG that goes back to the West Kendall days. Someone I've shared a lot of conversations with, a lot of laughs with. Like I said, I've been in this league for 10 years. When I first joined, I was just graduating high school, I think, and going into university. So it was always fun talking to Slappy about Slappy was always curious about the parties I was going to and what kind of trouble I was getting into. So yeah, just another great guy. So appreciate you, Slappy, and I think that's everything. I think we made pretty good time. We're just under 30 minutes, which is perfect. That's where I kind of want to keep this. So as mentioned, future episodes will be a lot more league and standing related. This episode was definitely a questions episode and introducing myself to people that may not know me. So everyone that left questions, thank you very much. Everyone who's listened to this far, thank you very much. Leave some questions for the next episode. But yeah, thanks for listening to episode 1 of Spillin the Oats. Can't wait to get episode 2 out for you guys, and hope you have a great afternoon, evening, whenever I get this out. Cheers, everyone.